Mythos Busters, investigating the mystery, monsters, and madness of Arkham Horror, the card game.
Hello listeners, and welcome to episode 115 of the Mythos Busters. I'm a voice that you may have forgotten. My name is Scott. I am more or less back off my hiatus, and I cannot wait to talk to my two almost bestest friends about Arkham. So with me tonight, Ian. How you doing?
Hello. I'm glad that you did not follow the path of Tom and disappear forever. You have returned.
I was in the background the entire time, longing to be with y'all.
Yeah, that was quite the summer all around. I'm glad we're all somewhat intact.
I remember at least half of it. Nick, you're also with us.
I am. Yeah, that was the longest year-long summer I've ever had to deal with. It felt like it was a full year. Scott, I was going to make a joke about it's so nice that we have a new host with us tonight for the first time in a long time, but then you said hiatus, so now that joke doesn't work. But yeah, darn. I know. That's fine. Welcome back, by the way. I'm glad you're no longer a silhouette in the like Mythos Busters office's window as you're staring in at us. But I'm glad you're back in the chair. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to be back. Enough with all this informalities. We have some serious business to get on with. We are going to talk about BusterCon. We're going to do some Patron news. We have some FFG news. And then our main topic today is going to be looking at the revised core set and kind of looking at the core set as I don't want to say as a whole, but revisiting it in the view of the game today and looking at the changes they made and what we think about those changes. We might mention the art, but I think we're thinking more mechanical changes. Either way, I guess I will do this because this is supposed to be Sean's stuff. BusterCon. We finally hit the mark on Patreon to start planning this out. And we had to wait a little bit because there was a little bit of pandemic going on, but now we have it going on. It is May 12th to 15th. It is happening at the Game Center, which you guys will know as the old FFG Event Center in Roseville, Minneapolis. If you have been...
Roseville, Minnesota.
I just see MN and it just... Yeah. If you've been to any Arkham Knights, you know the Event Center. It's just under new management, a new name. We now do have a hotel block booked at the Hilton Doubletree, which is a hotel that's very close to the Event Center. I would say it's approximately 2 soccer ball kicks away from FFC.
You would say that. I'm surprised you didn't say it's like 48 marble rolls away.
I mean, like, I'm thinking like a good hard huck of a kick. Yeah. I don't know soccer terms, Ian. You gotta help me out here, but
I think huck was accurate.
Okay. And now that I've said this, we need to make sure that this is accurate when BusterCon happens. So Ian will be needing you to kick a soccer ball
twice, exactly 2 times.
See if you can hit the hotel.
We'll measure it.
Watch the second kick land like 5 feet short.
Yeah. Damn it! It was 3 kicks away.
Best of 10.
So the when you go to book it, well, there'll be a link in the show notes. You can also call them. You can look up their number online, or I'll tell you right now: 651-636-4567. Or just look up Doubletree Hilton in Roseville. It's that. You can just mention BusterCon. They have free cancellation until May 10th. You don't actually get charged and stuff until BusterCon happens. But May 10th is your last day to back out, which is like 2 days before the con, so you should know. So book it now. If you have to cancel it, whatever. When you do go to book it on the website, the default is Thursday through Saturday night, but you can book at the BusterCon rate Wednesday night through Sunday night. The rate is $122 a night, which is like, I think their normal is like $170 or $180 like that. But it's $122 a night, regardless of how many people are in the room. There's king beds, there's 2 queens, plus a pull-out. Like, there's tons of stuff like that. Breakfast included, and their breakfast is actually really good. Yeah, it's awesome hotel. So, book that if you'd like to go. And Dream Eater's Iron Man is happening at BusterCon 2022. We're moving Iron Man to BusterCon because we know when it's happening a little bit more in advance than other events that we used to possibly have Iron Man at. Anyways, so look forward to that. I'm super pumped to see you guys again and see everyone from the Arkham community that I've missed for the last 2 years, because it is it's going to be 2.5 by that time it rolls around.
Right.
It's too long. Too long.
Regarding BusterCon, I have something that I'd like to announce real quick. I already talked about this with the hosts, so Scott and Ian, you guys know about this already. But my wife and I are expecting our 3rd child. And
congrats!
Thank you. Yeah. Well, I mentioned it in the host chat. I guess I don't know if you saw it or not, but
I'm not sure I did.
Okay. But the due date is 2 weeks before BusterCon. So right now I am planning to just be down for Saturday for Iron Man. Coming down in the morning, doing all of, thank you Network for the congratulations, doing all of Iron Man, and then probably spending the night at Sean's place down there and then heading back up Sunday morning. Obviously things can change between now and then regarding baby. So thank you Akewood for the congrats. So if things are looking good, I might come down, Friday night or something. But then obviously if things look poor or like getting away isn't going to happen, then I might unfortunately miss 2 Ironmans in a row. Which means that next BusterCon 2023, oh my god, 2023, that BusterCon we need to do like 3 Ironmans, and I will be present for all of them. Big Kahuna, thank you.
Well, someone did suggest doing an Iron Man, where you just like, you get to Minneapolis like Wednesday morning, and you just start playing from core set and just start playing through the campaigns.
Oh my god.
Everything printed, and like put in the side scenarios when they were released in the release order, and just keep going.
Oof.
So
no. No, right now I'm planning to come down and be there for Iron Man because I really want to get down there. It's like, it is so important to my mental health to be back around you guys and all the awesome people that we usually see at Iron Man events. So yeah, I'm planning for that, but obviously things may change. So
yeah. All right, guys, what have you been playing? Because I haven't talked to you in forever. Ian, fill me in.
I'll run through all the decks I've been playing. I think most recently, pretty much the same story as it has been, so you haven't missed too much from me, which is just I've been ridiculously busy, so I haven't played as much Arkham as I'd like to. But the main Arkham I've been playing lately is starting to play through Return to Circle Undone. And I've been running Parallel Agnes and Parallel Skids together, given the old Parallel Investigators are run through as a duo against, I guess you could call it a parallel version of Circle Undone because it's the Return version. And so I think I talked about these decks a little bit before, but as a recap, basically Agnes, it's called the Many Coats deck because I include as many soaks as I can. So I have like 6 assets that can fill a body slot. I have Leather Coat, Robes of Endless Night, and Trench Coat all stacked. Unfortunately, there's nothing that gives you an extra body slot yet in the game, but I'm still hopeful that I can one day just stack all those coats on top of each other. I think it was Sean I was talking to last time. I think it was a 2-man show with me and Sean, and I was talking a little bit about... Because basically the whole idea is to have a bunch of soaks because Parallel Agnes deals damage to herself to lower the cost of spells, so like it's just enabling that. But my big question, the big open question, is whether I needed that many soaks or whether I would be fine without it. I've only played a few scenarios so far, and I think it's probably overkill, which is probably not a huge surprise. I don't think I need that many, especially I've upgraded to Jessica Hyde now, who's like a soak and a half. 2 soaks in one body. So yeah, it was always meant as kind of a weird deck, but yeah, I don't think Parallel Agnes needs quite that many soaks, but it is funny. The other deck, the Parallel Skids, is just stacking together a bunch of cards that give you extra stuff depending on how much you succeed by, or succeeding by 2, and then just using his gambling test to trigger those, like Nimble, Quick Thinking, Watch This, Lucky Sig Case, of course. So those are all just gonna and of course his gambling test is just a free trigger, so you can free trigger that, and then if you have Nimble, all of a sudden you're moving, and then Quick Thinking, maybe you get an extra action, and Watch This, you're getting resources. So even though my old friend Double or Nothing has been sent off into the west, off to Valinor, it's
Taboo hell.
He can, yeah, I guess hell is more accurate than Valinor. You can still get some crazy stuff going with that gambling test.
Yeah. Nick?
I too, like the rest of the cool kids, have started a Return to TCU campaign. I forget who I'm playing. I know I had some friends over a couple weekends ago, and we started Return to TCU, a 3-player game, and I forget who we played in that. Oh, the reason why I forget who we played in that was because we only played the prologue. And then I was setting up for the next scenario. One of the friends was super sleep deprived, so he conked out while I was setting up the next scenario. And then my son ended up getting sick the next day, so we couldn't reconvene when we planned to. So anyway, we literally just did the prologue. But I've played up through... Oh, I know. I'm playing Nathaniel Cho and Harvey Walters, because I haven't played either of them since they came out. And I haven't played either of them with like a constructed deck. I've only used their starters. So they're pretty good. Like, I've talked shit about Harvey, but he's pretty good. Especially when you get that his book upgraded, not the Necronomicon obviously, but the one that you have to, it checks your hand size when you upgrade it, or in order to upgrade it. God, I'm totally off my game tonight. I can't remember any of these card names.
Oh, you mean the
Forbidden Tome, I think is what it's called.
Yeah.
Because if you're rocking, like, I was getting 12... there was one game that I got 16 cards in my hand, and that all 4 actions were negated off of the Forbidden Tome, and it just became a free triggered action to move to a location and grab a clue. Like, that was insane. So, Big Hand Harvey, boring at first, but actually kind of fun. And then Nathaniel Cho, he's just been a monster, which I don't think I have to explain that to anybody. Like, he was secret name. Okay, the secret name, like, they dominated the secret name. I think there were 2 agendas left when I finished that scenario, and I got every I got all the VP I could from it. I felt in control. And then Wages of Sin came up, and I got 1 ghost taken care of, and then and then Nat had to resign, and Harvey got some trauma. So Wages of Sin wasn't a great run, but holy crap, I'll take it to get such a good win on Secret Name. And then I picked up, as those of you who are listening now, or listening even on the RSS, you'll notice that Achievement Hunters episode 19 dropped. Literally just dropped this morning, so, not too long ago. I played Achievement Hunter last night, which is Ashcan Return to the Night of the Zealot, oh my god, Return to the Dunwich Legacy. And I did Return to Essex County Express tonight. Or not tonight, but on this last episode. And you want to talk about quick scenarios, That's probably the fastest I've ever played Return to Essex County Express.
Oh yeah,
It was really
with Duke.
It was really fast. Yeah, it turns out Duke is really good in that scenario. Moving and investigating at once helps you a lot. It also helped that I didn't pull any enemies. I pulled one enemy. It was the Wizard of the Order, and I just popped him on the last car, and then he got sucked right out the end of the round, which was super nice. Yeah, it was like I had a great time. I'm nervous about Blood in the Altar because this is the campaign that I have to get Duke sacrificed. So I'm trying to rack my brain about what I can do to my deck to make it so that I can set the encounter deck up to get poor Duke sacrificed.
Well, you just have to draw the kidnap card, fail the test, and then fail the scenario. Because then the entire pile gets sacrificed.
I do have to fail the scenario. Okay.
Well, I mean,
I have to rely on RNG if I don't. Yeah,
yeah exactly. Yeah. Yeah, or you can just resign.
Oh, once Duke gets pulled, then just resign in the center location, and
yeah, or grab VP or whatever. But just don't succeed on the scenario, and the entire stack gets sacrificed. So.
Right. So now it's a little backwards. I just played Return to Dunwich, so I should know this, but it's backwards, right? Where the better you do in Blood on the Altar, the worse you're set up for Undimensioned and Unseen. Is that correct?
The harder, yeah, you and you.
Right, because you prevented the sacrifices. Yeah, you prevented the sacrifices, so there's more broods that are hungry. So if, for instance, like we have 4 sacrifices in Blood on the Altar, I'm only looking at probably having 2 or 3 broods, right?
I think it's only 1 or 2.
That's awesome, because I'm also...
It's like...
Go ahead.
It's like Fisher Price, my first Undimensioned Unseen. Like it's
because I'm also going for the prevent all broods from escaping into the wilds for that achievement. So that'll be perfect.
Yep.
Like if I resign as quick as I can and just get a stacked sacrifice deck, and then I do Undimensioned and Unseen, and I'm running Waylay just for that, just so I can take care of some broods. So nice. Okay. Now I'm not as worried. I did... last time we talked about this, last episode I was on, I talked about how I did Miskatonic Museum, and that was a cakewalk as well. And then in Discord, it was mentioned how I shouldn't have had such an easy time because you can't investigate at the restricted hall while the hunting horror is there. And I'm pretty sure my last turn was evade the hunting horror, investigate, win. So I posed the question to Discord, and I was like, what do you think I should do? Should I go back and redo the scenario? Should I continue on like nothing happened in true Mythos Busters fashion? Or should I continue on but give myself a penalty? And the votes were pretty split between continue on as if nothing happened and redo the scenario. So I continued on as if nothing happened. But the biggest reason why I did that was because I set up Essex County Express, having forgotten that happened in the first place. And then I was like, well, I already got the scenario set up. So in Achievement Hunter, I talked about this, but my consolation is that if I get through Blood on the Altar and Duke doesn't get sacrificed, then I won't reset Blood on the Altar. I will reset back to Miskatonic Museum. Like, if ever I have to redo a scenario, my redo point now is Miskatonic Museum.
Your save point is...
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Museum. Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Has anyone mentioned to Nick the achievement he got in Return to... What? Wait, did I get an achievement? Hang on. Now I gotta take that... Biff the Boss is saying that I got an achievement in Return to Essex County. Did I? That it was one I wasn't going for.
Was it get out of the train super quick?
No, I don't think that's an achievement. I have them all written down, but of course then, I separated them by campaign, and so I've only been looking at the ones I have listed for Ashcan. All aboard! Complete Essex County Express without letting any helpless passengers leave play. Yeah, you're right, Biff the Boss. I got a bonus achievement.
Oh, nice.
You were the one that left the message. Thank you for that. I read the transcript. I didn't listen to the message. So you're Scott. Thank you. Thank you very much, second Scott. Yeah.
I'll give him first Scott today for bringing that in.
For bringing that up, yeah. Yeah, no, I pulled a helpless passenger, and I threw them on, the location, but I finished so quickly that they didn't get sucked off. So, which that of course is the technical term for what happens in Essex County Express. You get sucked off.
Yep. That's what I put on my campaign log.
So despite the fact that I literally just said everything that took place during my playthrough of Essex County Express, you should still listen to the episode. It's only like 20 minutes long. So still a lot of fun. But yeah, that's my Arkham recently.
I just remember way back in the day when I was playing the League of Extraordinary Investigators, and I was playing Ursula and solo and playing Essex County Express, and it took me like 4 turns. Like I had 3 Mythos phases,
God, yeah.
and it was done.
I'm sure.
Because you investigate, move, free investigate, move, and like I was at the engine in 2 turns.
Oh my
God. It was just... Because in solo, it's 1 clue, right? And it's like, oh, I just working
some
a
of
hunch,
the return,
grab that clue.
Yeah, some of the return to locations are double. I lucked out in that 3 or 4 of the 6 train locations for me were ones that either didn't require me to discard cards to avoid damage and horror, or had some sort of trick to get the clues off. So like one of them was like spend resources to get the 1 clue on the location. I was like, yeah, gladly, I'll take that. Like, no problem. So...
I have not played a whole lot of Arkham, as I'm sure everyone gets, but I was able to play a little bit, and part of my saving grace is some of my shifts were like noon to midnight, and I would get off at midnight, and I'd come home, and our friend of the show, Mr. Trench, would be online, and I'd be like, hey, you want to play a game of Arkham? And like, I'd have enough time to play like 1 game, and then go to bed to wake up for my next shift or whatever. So a lot of like midnight 1 a.m. games. But we were able, over the last couple months, to complete a couple campaigns. I played through, let's see, we did a Return to TCU, and I took Gloria.
Oh, sure.
And my God, that was fantastic.
She's just like the best. Like, I seriously don't think there's any investigator that can be better than her.
Yeah, like it just, I mean, I underestimated her ability at first. But getting later on the campaign, especially after upgrades and stuff, like the ability just to control what we were drawing every single turn reliably. And I think Casey was playing Zoe, I think. Sure. And so I was doing like clues mostly and just leaning into the willpower of Mystic Clues. Yeah. And Casey was killer with a little bit of clue flex. But yeah, just all the, like, I never drew an enemy. And Casey never drew a treachery he had to worry about.
Nice.
We did that. We took we did an Innsmouth campaign, and I played Silas, and he played Amanda, and both decks just hummed. Silas was an absolute beast. I used, let's see, Granny Orn, and I had all these static boost buffs, and even from like scenario things you get and whatnot. And there was times where my stat line was like 4477 or something. Like, those were my base stats. Oh, it was ridiculous. And that one scenario where you have to go, and there's that pump room, and you have to unflood all the caverns. Yep. And if you succeed by a certain amount, you just unflood something instead of like moving it from one place to another. And we just parked Silas there, and like my whole turn, and I was using twice I used that rogue skill where you commit it, you get an extra action. Watch
Quick
this.
Quick thinking.
And like, so like, there was 2 straight turns where I just like pumped 8 water out of the cavern in a 2-player game. Just like, just imagine this sailor just going hard on this pump, as a sailor could probably do, like rowing in a
He's
war.
like, oh, I'm home.
Yeah. So that was super fun. And I think we did a Return to Carcosa. I can't remember who we took. But those were like, it took us weeks to do a campaign. Sure. But yeah, so that's been my Arkham.
So have you guys, for when you did Return to TCU, did you use the tarot deck?
Yeah, actually, I did. We used the default.
So the suggested one where you use the tarot cards that are represented in the scenarios?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the one I'm using so far.
Me too.
And then you choose half of them and flip them over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm doing it correctly, because what I do is I I like look at what tarot card comes up for the scenario, and then I decide at the moment if I'm gonna go reverse or not. And I just try and keep it even, you know. So I think I'm at like 3 reverse and 2 standard at this point. But I think the way it's written, you're supposed to decide before you start the campaign. Isn't that right?
I think so.
Yeah, I think you're supposed to do like a whole reading, like you lay out 8 in a row.
Well, I guess.
But I mean,
guess I'm
whatever.
cheating, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
think even
I don't know how much difference it makes. I just kind of based on what I already know about the scenarios. Like, okay, that's a hard one. I'm not gonna do that one, or what the effects are.
It's cool though.
In our in our return to slight spoilers for the ending of Return to TCU for anybody. Casey and I went with the Coven way, and I didn't realize that if you went full Coven, you could do the early ending. And so we succeeded in getting the early ending. And I was like, oh, but I kind of want to play the other one. So then we just continued on. Like we just like fudged it so we didn't like super succeed. Yeah. We only mostly succeeded, like whatever so we can continue on.
Sure.
And the exact same thing happened to us in the third act of Before the Black Throne as it did in our Iron Man game, where we got that like the party bus glass elevator location.
Yep.
And just spent the tokens to move around the map. Like finally find the place we had to go. So that was fun reliving that part.
Nice. So that's what the new like resolutions and acts and all that in Return to TCU are, is it basically gives you the ability to side completely with the witches like you could do with the lodge. Okay, interesting. Because I missed that. I missed getting that in my Harvey Nat campaign. So
way harder because you have to get 3 ghosts in Wages of Sin.
Oh, sure.
To do it. Yeah, like it's we were one action short of doing it, and we cheesed it. We're like, nah. Like, it was because we were going for it, and like this game lasted like 2.5 hours because we were just like, to get 3.
Yeah,
it was just.
I mean,
and I didn't want to like throw the whole point of the campaign out the window,
right?
And we were one action short of success, and I'm like, no, like it just I refuse. So
I mean, that was me with Return to the Forgotten Age when I was like, I'm finally going to turn back time. And then Shattered Aeons came up and I just face planted. I'm like, I'm still turning back time. You can't tell me no.
And then you turn back time.
And then turn back time and I'm like, this is the worst scenario ever designed for this game.
I remember when we had that, like, what was the marriage game? And one of the questions was like, what do you think is the hardest scenario in the game? And I was the only one that did the turn back time scenario.
At that point.
Well, Sean and I had played it, but he's like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. I'm like, yeah, well, it was 20 minutes and it was over. Like,
turn 2, yig.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Moving on. We still have our voicemail open. Biff mentioned it. If you'd like to call us, we don't really have a topic right now, but if you just want to tell us we're wrong, tell us we're right, want to make a comment, have a show suggestion, any reason you want to just say something, give us a call. It's 203-493-MYTH, 203-493-6984, or if you have Facebook on your phone, you can, if it's not crashed, because it crashed. Anyways, joke for one. If you go to our Facebook page and just click call, it will call on your cell phone and you can just leave us a message. Or I know some people have mentioned that they get nervous about making the phone call and having to be perfect and wanting to rehearse it or whatever. If you want to just email us an MP3, that's super cool too. Ian,
I was just gonna say real quick, Biff, we'll play your voicemail next episode because Sean is the voicemail master and I don't know how to do
that. Ian, what patron news have we?
All right, so first off, thanks to our board members. That's Chris B, Chris H, and Chris M, our conglomeration of Chris's. Morton, Jared, Ian, Kyle, Philip, Dave, Abilio, Jesse, Chad, and Robert. Thanks so much for your huge support of the podcast. And a special shout out to a random patron. This time around goes to Dean Durant. Thanks, Dean, for your support as well. Make sure as always you go check out mythosmerch.com to see all the cool merch we got in there and send us pictures if you happen to wear it out in the wild. We always get a thrill out of that. We do have a couple of new job titles to give out this time around. First off, John Draper is going to be our Miskatonic Avenue marketing director, aka Miskman. Part of that crack Miskman team that we always talk about, right?
Yeah, I hear AMC is going to make a documentary about them.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
Something like that.
That's what I heard.
Yeah.
Nick, did you want to read the other job title?
Sure. We also just hired on Carissa Baker, and Carissa Baker will be our albino penguin steward. So keep them in line, watch over them, and make sure that we have a good stock of albino penguins going into Edge of the Earth.
Yep, very important.
She's one of the recent hires for the Edge of the Earth expedition.
Mm-hmm.
There's been a few hires lately. We're getting our team together. So.
Yeah. We've learned from the Forgotten Age that we want to just throw more bodies at the problem this time. So we're on a hiring spree for Edge of the Earth.
Yeah.
We're hoping we'll come out with a full party. By the time
aiming
we're
to decrease our mortality rate by 10% this time.
Oh, decrease? I gotta change my plans. All right.
Yeah, I mean, John Draper is part of this, right? Like, he's the one advertising, getting these people to come in and apply for the job, and then we send them on the expedition. So, Nick, any FFG news?
Yeah. So, turns out there's this little thing happening called Arkham Knights. I almost said Farkham Con. That is not happening this year. But Arkham Knights is happening this year, much to everyone's surprise, ? As in true style, it is announced 2.5 weeks before it happens. It is taking place at the FFZ, the Game Center in Roseville, the same place where, you'll go to BusterCon in May. The Center is hosting it, and FFG has some events that's happening there. There is an article that talks all about it, an announcement article. The link will be in our show notes. I'll pop it here in Discord in case anybody has missed it. They have a lot of different events planned. Sounds like it's in general, it's I guess you could call it a lower impact Arkham Knights than in previous years, but they still have some cool events planned, one for every day it looks like, so definitely check that out if you're going to head to that. Unfortunately, because we decided to put all of our eggs in the BusterCon basket, there really isn't going to be an official Mythos Busters event happening at Arkham Knights. In fact, currently, I think it's only Justin is the only one of us who is planning to go there, and I think even he
considering
is yes,
going.
And even he is on the fence. Sean thought about maybe dropping in for a day, but I guess we'll see. But Sean and Ian will be streaming on that Sunday, October 24th. You guys are streaming Return to the Night of the Zealot plus a side scenario. Is that right?
Yep. Side scenario still TBD, but yeah, we're gonna do a mini Iron Man. So 4 scenarios: Return to Night of the Zealot plus a side scenario. We're gonna start at 10 a.m. Pacific. That's 12 p.m. Central on the Sunday the 24th, I believe it is. Yep, the 24th.
Yep, I know exactly that it's the 24th because I was also going to be joining them, and then the day the plans were made, I got called in to work on Sunday the 24th. So unfortunately, I won't be able to make it, but I will be watching because Sundays at my job are dead as doornails. So anyway, for those of you who don't live in the Roseville area, don't fret, our notes say. For the first time ever, other game stores will be able to host their own versions of Arkham Knights. So in the weeks leading up to the 22nd, ask your local game store if they plan to host an Arkham Knights event. Each participating store that hosts it will take care of it in their own way. They can hold it anytime between October 22nd and 31st, so they have some leeway to schedule it. Some stores may even have some official Arkham Knights 2021 swag to give out. Just keep in mind that FFG will not be participating in the events of stores other than the Game Center, even though they wish that they could. So definitely talk to your local game stores about this, see if they're planning on running something, if they have an interest in running it, that sort of thing, and you might be able to maybe big quotes there, get your hands on some swag as a result. So, but yeah, check out that article for more information, and that's that. Happy Arkham Knights to everyone who's going.
I do want to throw out there is some stuff you can do from home. So really quick,
sure.
It's in the article, but Monday, October 25th, so the week after Arkham Knights, the event. So the Monday, basically take a picture of yourself playing any Arkham Horror Files universe game with the hashtag Arkham Knights 2021. You can win a prize pack. They don't have details what's in the pack. It's a prize pack.
It's probably a bunch of dice.
On Tuesday, October 26th, there's a cooperative trivia challenge. So at 6 p.m. Central, they'll be live streaming trivia, and basically for everyone who answers the question correctly, there's going to be points, and there's going to be a global score. The more points we get, we unlock prizes for Arkham. I'm not sure. Thursday, this is the big one. On the 28th, MJ is going to be streaming, where she's going to take everyone through a whirlwind tour of the Edge of the Earth campaign expansion with a focus on the characters and scenarios that can be found within. So, a big preview on Thursday, October 28th. Sounds like it's going to be lit.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's everything of consequence. There's some recipes they're sharing, but I mean... Okay. Yeah. Anyways, I'm super excited for the stream for Edge of the Earth.
Yeah, that's exciting. I really hope that the prize pack includes a bunch of giant acrylic damage and horror tokens. And
as long as they don't line up with any size previously.
Yeah, and maybe like an Elder Sign promo.
Oh yeah, that's a game, right?
Exactly.
I own that game. And a couple expansions.
Mm-hmm.
I just haven't played it in years. But yeah. I wonder what I wouldn't mind doing the trivia contest. That may be fun. Well, maybe we should see if we can stream.
Do like our own
answering live. But like us answering it, like us participating in it and shouting answers.
That's on Wednesday?
But it is Tuesday, October 26th.
Tuesday. Oh, okay. I might actually be able to do that because my show opens on the 21st, but then that week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday after that, I shouldn't have anything going. Yeah, that'd be fun.
Nice. Right, that's all we have for news.
Yes, I believe so. Yeah,
I think so. All right, on to our main topic. So, we are looking at the revised core set, which is, I'm just going to throw it here, probably one of the best core set experiences you can now get for an FFG game? Question mark?
I think so.
Simply because you can play 4-player. You have a full play set of cards now. They've added more cards, more upgrades and stuff. But what we're going to talk about today is we're going to go through each class and kind of go look at the core set as it was and where there were strengths, where there were shortfalls. Kind of look at the cards in a view from today with the current quote-unquote meta and card pool and everything like that. And then we're going to look at the new cards they added and see if those cards kind of fill the gaps or help build up that class from where it once was in the core set. So, starting off in non-rainbow order, but the order that this game puts the colors in, Guardian. Nick, what are the strengths of the Guardian class?
Oh gosh, I thought I unmuted, but I muted. Guardians are your enemy management class, first and foremost. That's their biggest strength, is they have the tools to deal with enemies. They had them first, and they still have them best. That's a sentence. But they also are big on support and keeping the team... They're generally about keeping the team alive.
I think the core set did a good job of showing this, or showcasing it. Like, they had weapons that functioned. I mean, Machete was...
Yeah. Oh, God, I forget that Machete exists.
I know, because it went to Taboo Hell.
Yeah, they had Machete and they had the 45 in the core set, and then they also had the shotgun. And then Guardians got Dodge and First Aid in the core set as well, and both of those were great. Mm-hmm. Just enemy management that wasn't direct damage or any enemy recuperation, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Vicious Blow as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like just being able to pop that extra damage where you need it for those 3 healths. So, Ian, what would you say were the shortfalls of Guardians in the core set?
The big one that's always stuck out was, of course, clue finding, clue acquisition. It's something that was expanded upon later, but when you're just looking at the core set and you're thinking about how you're going to get clues, now the one advantage Guardian had is the investigator that was picked. So thankfully Roland himself as a Guardian is really good at getting clues, and his ability kind of turns killing into clues, and plus he has 3 intellect, so it's not bad. So that was kind of that investigator choice helped to guard against that weakness, for lack of a better word. But if you look at the other Guardian cards, there's not much there. I think there's evidence, but beyond that, there's not a ton of help there in getting clues.
I think that's a big thing too. That I mean, it kind of shaped my viewpoint, and I think some other players' viewpoints, that Guardians are actually okay at getting clues, because our first taste was Roland, who could kill to get clues, and then also his off class was Seeker, right? Like, where it's like, I have clue getting help there. And then as Guardian kind of developed, it's like, well, maybe Guardians aren't super great at clues.
Well, then,
I mean,
the next Guardian was Zoe, and it was like, ooh, like,
yeah. And I mean, Guardians still have tricks to get clues, right? Like, Scene of the Crime is an amazing card. Evidence still makes it into some decks for me, but that is kind of their shortfall. But it was way less noticeable in the core set, and I feel like Roland was an excellent core set investigator.
Yeah, Roland covers up for a lot of sins, really. So
Yeah.
not to say that the Guardian. I think the Guardian collection of cards is pretty strong in the core compared to some of the other classes, but just in terms of the clues, I guess, is the sin I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I was going to say, looking through this list, the next question I had is, what cards do you still use on a regular basis? And honestly, looking through the list of Guardian cards in the core set, maybe that question should be, which cards do you not use still?
There's so many good Guardian cards.
Oh my god.
I don't use dodge a whole lot anymore. Evidence it's slim. Like, I very rarely take evidence. But guard dog, beat cop, physical training, 45, those are all just solid cards that almost anybody with blue access, you're gonna like at least one of those, if not all of them. So
yeah, and like, even the cards that I don't use super often have their niche places. Like, if I'm playing like a solo Guardian, evidence usually makes it into the deck just because it's a quick way to get a clue, which is usually all the clues on a location. Extra ammo fits into all my jank decks that I'm making. Police badge sometimes. That's one I actually haven't touched in a long time. I think there's just... that one would probably be the one I just like, but it's still a great core set card.
Yeah, I love Police Badge. I don't use it too often, but when I do use it is in my Skids Action Stacker deck. I definitely grab, when it's just like, I'm just going to play Skids and I'm going to take 10 actions a turn, like, I definitely make sure Police Badge is in there, so...
Yeah, I used Police Badge a ton in the early days of the game, as a lot of Skids players did, and we're mentioning Skids a lot because I think he probably used it more than Guardians and Roland, actually. But I'm kind of skipping ahead, and we'll talk more about some of the cards that got added, but with Relic Hunter now being in the revised core set, I'm wondering if people will be more tempted to use Police Badge, because then you can also stack another accessory on top of it. Because one of the things with Police Badge used to be like, you get the willpower boost, but then you kind of got to decide when to use it and discard it, and then it's taking up your accessory slot. But
yeah,
that'll give some breathing room. Another one that maybe I don't use as much, and I hate to say this, Nick, is Shotgun.
I mean,
Just because we've gotten so many other big weapons since then, like lightning gun and flamethrower is a special favorite of mine, and bar, and so. But back in the if you just have the revised core set, like that's kind of what you got in terms of huge damage output all at once. That's kind of the main game in town.
And having extra ammo in the core set too. I mean, you can set that shotgun up to be a little bit more than what it is. And I think shotgun is, I mean, it is that big weapon. But as the card pool expands and we get these different versatile weapons, it becomes more of those niche weapons. But you can still build a deck like Nick, like you had a deck. The only card is shotgun. Like you can build around a big weapon, and a shotgun is completely valuable as that big weapon to have a deck built around. Still, I think.
Ian, I'm not even gonna fault you for not using shotgun that much anymore, because I don't use it that much anymore. Honestly, when the bar came out, it was really hard for me to look back at shotgun because the bar is just so good. But
it raised the bar.
It did. It was the bar. Like, but I will say that I made when we played the dog scenario, whatever that one's called, Barkham Horror.
Barkham.
When we played that, and I played the blue doggy, and I was like, my whole goal is to get a bandolier out and just fill 6 paws of weapons. The only weapon I got out was shotgun, of the 8 big weapons I had, and it was still super fun, and it was still super good. So even though there are other guns that now I use more, shotgun is still a contender, guys. Like, oof, it's a good gun.
So the cards that got added for Guardian are First Aid level 3, and I've Had Worse level 4. So I like I've Had Worse.
But it's the least useful version of the two that we have.
It is a high XP cost.
It's high XP cost, and how often are you getting hit for enough damage to
5?
Use all of that? Yeah, exactly.
I think it's probably 1 when you're fighting off the big end baddie.
Maybe, but even then they don't always. They do 3 horror or 3 damage. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I've Had Worse level 4, but I prefer level 2 pretty strongly.
Yeah. And First Aid level 3.
Sure.
Neat, I guess.
Yeah, I can kind of see including it because you got the original First Aid in there, so it's kind of like a straight line. But I think the problem is just it's the same problem as the original First Aid in the core set, which is Night of the Zealot demands that you move fast and faster than most campaigns, I would say. Obviously not so much a Gathering, but Midnight Mass and Devour Below. It's like you just got to move. So you rarely have time to play First Aid, and that was always our criticism back in the day. And then as we got into other campaigns, I still don't use First Aid a ton, but I have used it. And you do have more breathing room in other campaigns outside the core. But First Aid 3, I don't know. Obviously, it's better than the original First Aid, but I think you still run into a little bit of the same problem of finding actions to use it.
Yeah,
it kind of does build these 2 cards do build up that feeling of Guardian, which it seems like MJ and goodness, I'm forgetting his name.
Jeremy
have moved Guardian towards it's like you attack but you also protect, right? Like where it's you've got some healing and some tanking damage and stuff like that. To put that in the core set kind of gives players an idea that it's not just all run and gun. It's also take some hits and still be okay. As far as covering any shortfalls, they don't necessarily fill anything. But I don't think Guardian in the core set, especially with Roland, because he had access to that secret, he didn't really have any.
No, I don't think they needed it.
Felt right.
Well, I mean, it's not that he didn't have shortcomings. It's that he was only marginally better at combat than he was at investigating right out the gate. So he's I would say he's probably the most well-rounded out of all the investigators in the core set. And that's its own strength, you know what I mean? So they didn't need to include like lesson learned or scene of the crime or anything like that because I mean, it's Roland. He gets yellow anyway. And he's good to go.
Yeah, I'm wondering if I've had worse was a little bit of a hedge against Roland's like low sanity, which was kind of the big thing everyone talked back during the core days is like it's so easy for him to get knocked out with rotting remains and
moving on to Seeker. Obviously their strengths are getting clues, and Daisy does that well with spades. I mean, she's the only 5 stat in the core. No, Agnes has willpower. Yeah. But willpower doesn't do anything on its own.
Right. Yeah.
So like I mean you can massage that willpower and stuff. But yeah, like Seekers, I mean they get clues. They do that super well. I think there's like kind of a couple, I don't want to say bum cards, but I mean, when's the last time you thought of medical texts?
I usually forget it exists.
Yeah.
There, as I was making the show notes for this one, there is another card later on we'll talk about that I actually forgot existed. When I was like, oh yeah, that does exist.
But that being said, we got the legendary Dr. Milan in the core set. And then there's also Mind Over Matter and Working a Hunch and Deduction, all of which were stellar right out of the gate. And then Barricade was in the trash fire, and then it got redeemed from the trash fire partly by Min, and then Luke came in and was like, here, let me help you get that barricade out of there. And suddenly now it's one of the, not a better card, but it has very significant use, whereas before it was kind of like well, it's not really doing anything for me. So
yeah, it was bike spokes before that.
Yeah. So Seeker was in a really good spot as well in the core set, I think.
Yeah, very similar to Guardian, and just like a couple of duds there, at least in the core set environment, like same ones that you mentioned, Barricade and Medical Techs. Hyper Awareness, I never used a ton, but it's not a bad option. But yeah, the rest, you got a lot of heavy hitters there that just keep getting used. Maglass, Dr. Milan, Deduction.
Cryptic Research too. Like that's a card I always look at. I mean, still now I look at, I'm like, man, if I have the extra XP, like if I'm just crushing a scenario, like Cryptic Research just makes your entire deck better because it's just fast draw more of your deck.
Yeah.
Right, for 0 cost. Like the cost is having the card in your hand.
Right.
Well, and the 4 XP, but
yeah,
and you can give it to someone else too, right? So
why would you do that?
When I need to draw cards up. Chris asks in the chat, does Milan have the updated rules text? The updated rules text is actually taboo. So these cards are not, because taboo changes, these cards are not going to have the taboo text on them because they're...
Well, and not only because it changes, but also because it's optional.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, right? Like, yeah, and especially if this is someone's first foray into this game, I think Dr. Milan, Christopher, was, actually moderately balanced for a core set environment.
Oh, sure.
You know what I mean? Like, he's a really good ally. He gets you some money, but all the cards that abuse him are the ones that come later on. Right, like Higher Ed, right? Yeah. Like Higher Ed with Rex and Dr. Christopher Milan, like that trifecta was like, okay, that's a bit too much.
Well, and
right?
back in the core set, like, I remember there was a lot of people, myself included, who still considered Leo to be the best ally. And Milan was there next to him. Like, Milan's like, hello. Yeah. And whereas nowadays, which one's tabooed? It's Milan. It's because of all the stuff that came later.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the thing when you're looking at game balance, I think you have to cut out the thing that starts the engine, right? Like, if there's an engine that's going that you don't want to happen, you have to remove the thing that starts the whole combo. and Dr. Milan is that. But in this core set, I don't see like this. He's just a really good ally for Seekers to have, but he's not breaking anything.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Any shortcomings in Seeker? Oh, sorry. Ian.
Yeah. I was gonna segue to the shortcomings a little bit. Kind of the mirror image of Guardian, that the main weakness of Seeker in the core set is a lack of combat ability. And they did shortly get some combat options in Dunwich, and even more so later on. But in the core set especially, like, you got mind over matter to turn your intellect into combat or agility, but that's kind of like a temporary thing. But beyond that, I remember making very heavy use of Disc of Itzamna back then, especially if I was trying to run solo. And that's actually a card that I don't use as much anymore as Seeker, and cards that have access to Seeker, investigators that have access to Seeker have gotten more combat options. I don't use the disc as much, but yeah, that was kind of their big weakness at the time. Again, though, this is where the investigator choice was kind of smart, I think. Like, just like Guardian's weakness was investigating, but they got Roland, who's good at investigating. We got Daisy, who had access to Mystic and actually has an ability to kind of, do some combat with the Mystic spells using her willpower.
Yeah, you kind of like and it was hard to like, and this is where I think we'll see why this is a better product now for someone getting into the game is you'll have 2 copies of Shriveling instead of a single copy of Shriveling in your deck, right? So now, you know what, like a 1 in 15 chance of getting your Shriveling instead of 1 in 30. Maybe now you also pack 2 Holy Rosaries, like you can, and you have Relic Hunter, right? So maybe you can actually have a decent willpower based Daisy deck to start, right? Like there's those options. So yeah. All right, the new cards being added. Old Book of Lore level 3 and Seeking Answers level 2.
I think that, so with Guardian, I was like, I've had worse is okay. First Aid is a little less okay. Seeking Answers 2 is okay. But Old Book of Lore level 3, like, holy shit.
Yeah.
That alone.
Yeah.
They could have taken cards out of Seeker in the core set and included that, and I would have been fine with it.
Yeah, that's a pretty big bomb of a card to, especially with Daisy's free
Give Daisy
to give that to new players and be like, here,
yeah,
this is how this game operates. You're like, oh my god. Yeah. Seeking Answers, you know what it is? Like, Seeking Answers to me is a totally fine core set card.
Yeah.
You discover 2 clues. It's essentially like a deduction, but different. Like you're. So I kind of like it. I think I know where they're coming from to add that to the box. And honestly, if this had come in the core set, it would have been one of those cards I'm like, oh yeah, that makes total sense in a core set. I don't use it personally, but I can see its value there. So
I use it in Luke. Seeking Answers 2.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But
because when you're in the gate box and you succeed investigating that one shroud,
and then
after you vantage point a clue,
yeah, no, but you play it. Like, I'm like, oh, there's clues at that location and the location next to it. Well, I'll just Seeking Answers and I get them from both. Like, you know what I mean? Not the gate box, because you can bounce it anywhere.
Oh no, but what I'm saying is, so you start out the turn and you fast.
Oh yeah, into a low
vantage
shroud,
point.
Yeah.
Sorry, you pop the box, you vantage point, you grab the clue, put it on the box, which is now 0 shroud. So you investigate that, then you use Seeking Answers.
Yeah.
Which you're gonna succeed. Yeah. Anyways, this is not the Luke podcast.
No, I mean it should be, but
God, I
right.
wish it was. Yeah. So yeah, Seeking Answers, totally fine. I can see where they're coming from. And I I know we've talked about this before, and I think way back when we had Nate on the show, and we were talking about like balance and how, you know what, sometimes there has to be cards that aren't as good so that other cards can be better, right? Like if every card was perfectly balanced, that'd be a terrible game because there's nothing exciting. Right? Like, so Seeking Answers is kind of one of those cards where I'm like, I get it. But in the right investigator or with this regular combo, it's fantastic. Right? So, yeah. But Old Book of Lore level 3 with the wow.
Discussion done. Like, that's...
yeah. Hot diggity damn. So, do the new cards fill needed gaps?
Not really.
No, but they sure bolster what Seekers were doing.
Yeah, they just enhance it.
Yeah. It kind of almost, it feels like it I don't want to say it typecasts Seekers, but like if you're starting in the core set, Daisy is going to be this super soft, squishy, amazing clue getter. But it's not going to be like the half Mystic, half Seeker Daisy in a couple sets where she can handle her own, you know, on solo super easily. All right. Moving into Rogue. I was excited to talk about this one, Ian. Well, you start.
Okay, so we're talking about what they're good at in the core set. So, one thing is actions, with Leo DeLuca, of course, the manatee himself, as kind of the main example of that. The investigator who represents Rogue in the core skids also giving you more actions. And so those are kind of the main thing. You can kind of think of elusive as a form of actions in a way, because how many actions are you saving when you teleport across the map in elusive's original form? And then the other thing it gives you is resources, of course. So when you're thinking about burglary, although we'll talk a little bit more about burglary. We'll talk a little bit more about that one. But then you also have like your hot streak as an upgraded card as like a big money bomb, essentially. So money and actions is the short version.
I've always said that rogues break the rules because it's like everyone gets 3 actions unless you're playing rogue. And, you know, an action gets you a resource unless you're playing rogue. And, like, you can't just buy clues, but alright, you're playing rogue, so I guess you can. Yeah. You know, I mean, like, I've always said that rogues just break the rules, because that's literally, to me, that feels like what the class does.
And when you draw a token out of the token bag, that's final.
Yeah.
Unless you're a rogue. Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, okay, so let's have a conversation about skids as the choice investigator here for Rogue. I want to have a legit conversation. I know, like, there's that meme of me ragging on skids. Also, still one of my favorites. What do you call it? Standalone investigators now. Sure. Because of what he can do. But I think,
I mean,
go ahead. The experience, though, like, I mean, he had low willpower, and so you had quite a few treacheries, because that was kind of the style back then, was treacheries tested willpower, and so he was kind of susceptible to that. And in both the combat and investigation stats, he had 3s, which you can kind of work with, but he didn't really have the ability to get clues that easily. Like, I mean, his clue tech was perception, which is a neutral card,
and flashlight,
essentially. Sure, and flashlight, but it was coming from, right, like, Rogue didn't really offer him much support, and he could take weapons, but he was starting at a 3 as opposed to a 4, which
the thing
isn't huge, but it's
it was just, the card pool didn't play to his stat line in the core set. There was nothing that really capitalized on 4 agility, and it took a while before we saw stuff that did capitalize on high agility, and it's, you know, so... And yeah, he didn't make use of the Guardian cards other than Police Badge, but then it became like if you're running just core set and even into Dunwich, it was like, yeah, all right, well, if you're playing skids, your first 4 experience go to 2 copies of Police Badge. Like you need them, you know what I mean, to boost that willpower, to give you those extra actions when you need them, that sort of thing. So I love skids. I think he's great, but I've said before, and I still think that straight out of the core set, Rogue had the hardest time.
Yeah,
and they did have backstab and sneak attack, but I mean at 3 costs and 2 costs, like that was expensive ways to do damage.
Yeah, I'd say the biggest weakness of Rogue in the core set, which I think it got addressed a little bit when we talk about the added cards in a little bit here, is the clue finding. Like usually playing skids back then, I could make enemy management work in the tried and true Rogue way of evading, and like that was one I think back then I even said Cat Burglar was my favorite card back in the core set days, because I used it a ton because it was just such a great way to just dodge away from enemies as skids back in the day. But it was really that clue finding that would slow you down. There wasn't great options, and I've said it before, but I think Skid's ability is great. His stat line is not ideal, but it's workable. But really the biggest problem, which you both touched on, is his off-class. I think Guardian as off-class Skids was not the best choice for the Rogue and the core, given the other cards that are in the core for Rogue and Guardian. It just put him in a place that was not ideal. I think if he had been a Rogue Survivor, it would have been a lot different story. Like if you look at the Survivor cards and combine those with the Rogue cards, he would have been able to do a lot more and get a lot more investigating done, I think. So
parallel skids.
Yes, essentially. Yeah, once I saw parallel skids and he had a lot more Survivor access, then I was like, okay, that's kind of what I always envisioned for skids. And so I think that was really the biggest weakness for skids as a core investigator, is that place. Because when you look at the if we're gonna talk about beyond skid, some of the rogue cards in the core. If you look at the weapons like 41 Derringer and Switchblade, these are cards I actually use now with some of the newer rogue investigators. But with skids back at that time, when you look at Switchblade and Derringer, and then you look and he has Guardian access to 45 automatic and machete, you're just kind of like, what the heck? Like, why are these even here? Why do you exist?
And then they give Switchblade in the Wendy deck. like fight with 1 combat. If you succeed by 2 or more, this attack deals 2. What? In what universe? Yeah, it. I mean, yeah, it. I feel like these weapons came to their own when Tony came out. I was like no,
I mean even before Tony, like I definitely use the Derringer in Jenny. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, fair
Switchblade
enough.
I still don't use a whole lot, but yeah, it's like what Skid's just. Oh man.
Yeah. I think his stat line didn't line up with the vision of Rogue, and like I feel like they were trying to do. It felt like they were trying to go a couple different ways with Rogue, and now like Rogue can go a couple different ways. Right? Like you can be like that super money Rogue. You can be everything in on agility Rogue. You can be an actual fighting Rogue, and the core box touched on everything of that, but it didn't like really seal the deal on anything.
Right. Yeah, I am. Because we talked about Seeker and Guardian about what their natural strengths, which are just like combat and investigating, right? And their core cards just play right into that. But when we think about what I just mentioned, like actions and resources, like you have the Manatee Leo, and he's like the bomb rogue card in the box. But beyond that, it's. When you look at a lot of the other cards, it's almost like it didn't quite play into that rogue identity.
Yeah.
Like 41 Derringer should have been kind of what I think it's its upgraded form where when you succeed by a certain amount, you can take another action.
Yep.
Like, if that hadn't been included in level 0, then you can kind of see, like, okay, I get what they're going for. Like, it's playing into actions, and same thing with Switchblade, or maybe it gives you resources like the Mouser does. But at this point, the Rogue, I can look at this more objectively now, because I think back then I was more defensive. Like, no, the Rogue cards are fine, because that's my class. But more objectively, when you just look at this collection of cards, it's like it's a little bit all over the place. It doesn't quite play into the class identity as much. It doesn't shore up the weaknesses. It's just kind of like the weapons, especially, are worse versions of Guardian weapons. Burglary, like, I get the idea. It's fine. But again, burglary's in the first aid camp, where you just don't have that time in Night of the Zealot.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. And also, how are you going to pass that investigate?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like, you're investigating starting at 3. And this always puzzled me, too, when people are like, oh, yeah, rogues are all about money. And I'm like, the only 2 money cards in the core set are Hot Streak and Burglary.
Yep.
Burglary is terrible.
Yeah.
And Hot Streak is level 4.
Yeah.
So you're going to get that for the last scenario. And it's like, rogues are all about spending money, but they don't have the income in the core set, right? And all these actions, like, yeah, they're really useful, but if you're just failing all the tests, what use is extra actions?
Yeah.
Right? So I don't want to harp, and Ian, I think, like, to what you're saying, like, this is looking back objectively compared to what it is now, and now, like, Rogue is an incredible class. All the classes are incredible now. It just, like, the Rogues, it was a stumble off the start, I think. There's still some cards I use today, but a lot less than the other classes.
Yeah, it's pretty much like Leo and Elusive, of course, are the big bombs. The upgraded cards are good overall. Like Cat Burglar's a great core set guard. Sure Gamble, Hot Streak, but really, those level 0. There's some stinkers in there.
You know what I find too, looking at the list, is I look, and these rogue cards, I'm like, oh, that card I use in X Investigator. This one I use in Y. This one I use in Z, and they're all different. But when I look at the Seekers, I'm like, well, like, this is half of all my Seeker decks.
There's 4 cards.
I look at the Guardians, I'm like half of all my Guardian cards use these core set. Like, it's the rogue cards, kind of like I said, right? Like, there was the agility thing, and then there's the combat thing, and then there's the money thing. It's like all these different things that Rogue was going to do. And now, all the cards, now they can do all those things. And so those cards fit into those niche decks.
Yeah, back then, like, the true rogue weapons were kind of like backstab and sneak attack. And so I actually use those quite often, but I don't use those as much anymore because they are expensive one-time things, and now rogue actually has good weapons. So I don't use those as much. And Opportunist was always one that was a core set card that just was like, why? Like, if you succeed by 3, how is Skid succeeding by 3 with a stat line in the core set cards?
Everything.
So that was always a head scratcher too.
But can we talk about how much of a home run it is to include lockpicks level 1 now in the revised core set?
So the ones they included: 41 Derringer level 2, awesome include. Lockpicks level 1, awesome include. Like this class, I think, is the one that got like the biggest boost from this revised core set and the added cards.
Yep. Yeah, the Derringer is exactly what I just talked about, that it actually plays into the extra action thing. And is just a better weapon. And then, Lockpicks just solves that investigation problem. And works
can
well
help
for
with clues
Skids.
now.
Yep.
Yeah.
He has something to do with all those actions from Leo. Yeah.
Like, these are also cards that I would love to have reprints of, simply because I use them so much. Right? Like, 41 Derringer level 2 and Lockpicks 1 make it into a lot of decks of mine. So, like, this is... I think Rogue got the best add in this core set. And it totally rounds them out. Like, it filled in some gaps. So,
I would agree.
All right. Well, Sean, would you like to... Oh, wait. Mystic. Oh, Sean. So Mystic was interesting in the core set. They had one copy of Shriveling, so that was cool.
Yep.
That was always a fun time.
Yeah. You had Forbidden Knowledge, so you could ping your own sanity to do damage. That was good.
Not being cheeky, Mystic had Drawn to the Flame, which was probably, I'm trying to think like back to Dunwich days and like the card pool that we had. Drawn to the Flame, I think, was more of a gamble back then. I don't know, there's some pretty tough treacheries now, but there weren't as many options for the Mystic to deal with those. But they did get Ward of Protection as well. So you kind of saw that 1-2 combo. You kind of saw what Mystics were all about. Like, okay, not only am I going to control the encounter deck, but I'm also going to, goad it a little bit. And like, I'm gonna take extra stuff from the encounter deck. Oh, no, but I can also cancel. But other than those two, Forbidden.
Well, Arcane Initiate I still use quite a bit.
Sure.
If I'm playing a heavy spell investigator.
Mm-hmm. And
yeah, especially when you're looking for that one copy of Shriveling.
Yeah. And we do bag on the one copy of Shriveling and one copy of Forbidden Knowledge, but honestly, like, those are really solid cards when Agnes is your Mystic. Those are both great. So,
and I think there was a discussion about this a long time ago on the Discord, but basically talking about the 1 core versus 2 core thing that is now not an issue. But how Mystic was the class that if you were going to play Agnes, you needed 2 cores the most.
Yes.
Because having a single option for combat in Shriveling is just like obscene, right? Like that's all you have. Unless you want to like play baseball bat or something,
right? With
her splash, but like just the idea of Mystic, and that's why people were saying, like if you're gonna buy the core set and you want to play Mystic, also grab Jacqueline, so you can get the spells from there too, right? So you can actually build out Agnes. Yeah, is some advice that I saw. So, and also Mystic clue finding
it's not. Yeah, other than Drawn to the Flame, like there's it's
it. One card. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a big weakness.
And what good has ever come from Drawn to the Flame, right? Oh god.
Yeah, and the choice of Mystic Investigator really nudged you in the combat direction too. Agnes with her 2 natural intellect. I mean, obviously her combat is low too, but that's where like her ability deals damage. You got your Shriveling, you got your Forbidden Knowledge to ping for damage, but there's nothing there that's really leading you towards clues. So,
right.
Yeah, she did have with her splash. She does have Look What I Found,
right?
But again, that's a one-time event for 2 clues. You have to fail by 2 or less. Like, yeah, the clue getting was the big weakness, I think, in Mystic.
Yeah. So that core set Mystic package really was slanted towards combat and then or enemy management, like you have Blinding Light to evade them, and then also with Ward of Protection, just that kind of introduction to cancellation, I guess. But that's just always been a great card ever since. So.
Now, that being said, I think there's quite a few cards in the core set that we still play today often, right? Like, Ward of Protection makes it into every Mystic deck.
Yeah,
like
pretty much.
Anyone who can take purple considers Ward of Protection, I would say.
Yeah, Shriveling still used a ton.
Yeah, obviously. Drawn to the Flame is used. I use that often.
Yep.
Holy Rosary,
I see.
Fearless, like...
Yeah. If you know you're going to be taking, like if you're using like a bunch of wards and all that stuff, like using your horror, absolutely. I still use Arcane Initiate, although only in certain builds, but still is.
Yep.
Book of Shadows level 3. No, just kidding. I know, like now, Grotesque Statue Not that it wasn't great back then, but now with all the token play that Mystic has, like it's a card that
I need to pull that one back out.
Build.
I used it so much in the early days, and for some reason I haven't used it as much. I don't know why. I guess because it's 4 XP, so you really, there's so many options now, it's more like if you're really investing in that token play type build.
Yeah, I haven't really used Grotesque Statue since like really playing around with Jim.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, I just haven't really gone back to it, but it is a solid card.
So, funny story, first time I ever played Arkham with Sean at the Key Inn in Roseville. And we're playing in the middle of the night. It was at a Worlds. And it's like 2 a.m. and I'm upgrading my Daisy deck. We're pulling an all-nighter. And he just slams all the purple cards in front of me. I was like, oh, Grotesque Statue seems good. And then this guy came in and he was watching us. He's like, why does Daisy have Grotesque Statue? And we realized mid-game that it was illegal for her to have it. So that was my first experience with Grotesque Statue.
Nice.
Is Sean leading me astray. So.
It wouldn't be the last time.
No.
We're still dealing with that.
Yeah, I have foreseen it. So Mystic got Rite of Seeking level 2 and Scrying level 3.
Rite of Seeking's a good include.
I like it.
Yep,
Scrying is Scrying 3. I always forget. It turns it into a fast action, right?
It does, yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I think the theme of it, right? Like,
yes.
It gives Mystic that, like, scrying as I level up, I get better at controlling the encounter deck,
Right.
so my Drawn to the Flames are easier, or I know when to spend my Ward of Protection. And now that you have 2 copies of Shriveling, and you can grab 2 copies of Rite of Seeking, it's like, hey, I can really lean into willpower, I can grab 2 Holy Rosaries and a Relic Hunter, and now I'm really getting it, like, going. My Arcane Initiate is actually hitting spells.
Yeah.
Yeah. I the fact that it gives Agnes some cluing in the core is awesome.
Yeah.
And I think it's just a good upgrade for the Mystic side.
I'd agree.
Yeah, those are 2 solid includes. They covered exactly what we talked about the clue finding, and I think similar to some of the other cards we saw added, like the First Aid 3, I think it was a similar thought process of like, this is a card that people often question why it was in the core, so here's the upgraded version, because then you get to see like where it can go. Although I think I like Scrying 3 in here better than First Aid 3.
I'd agree.
Yeah. Yeah. Scrying level 0 I actually used quite a bit in solo Daisy way early in the days, just because it took up an arcane slot and I didn't really care about that at that point.
Yeah.
And playing solo, I could look at the next 3 cards.
Yes.
Right? And so then I could and I would just lay those cards out in the order they were coming out next to the encounter deck. So I could be like, okay, what do I need to prep for? Like it was much more of that. Whereas nowadays it's like, I don't have time to scry. Besides, I can tank whatever comes off the top of the deck by passing tests or whatever. So it was a way more proactive day than reactive back in the day. All right. Survivor. The best class that ever existed.
It's everyone's second favorite, man.
Everyone's favorite off class. Yeah. Survivor in the core is a bit of a hot mess. Like, in kind of a good way. But, like, they were just kind of doing a little bit of everything. And not necessarily... It was Wendy who fueled a lot of the...
That's true, I guess.
The goodness, right? Like, her ability just to redraw and, like... Yeah. But their strengths, like, I mean, she was using flashlights and look what I found.
Yep.
For clues. Like, Survivor doesn't really give you any clue tech besides that.
Yeah. I mean, there's Lucky, which you could argue is a form of clue tech. But yeah, no, that's pretty much all you're doing.
Like, even the talent Dig Deep gives you willpower and agility.
Right.
Like, you can't boost your intellect at all. Enemy management, she was pretty good. She had evasion.
Yeah.
There was a baseball bat as an option.
Baseball bat, stray cat, survival instinct.
Yeah. It was a more tricky, like, I don't see Wendy taking baseball bat. I mean, you had to in the core,
Right.
but like, there was a lot of evasion. But for investigators coming up, I mean, you had a little bit of combat options.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think the shortfall was exactly what we're talking about. Like, it's not really focused.
Yeah.
Like, they're not focused,
No.
right? Like, they're just,
It feels...
okay, pass this test.
Survivor feels a
fail this
lot
test,
like
yeah.
Mystic does in the core set, where it's kind of like it gives you a little bit of everything, and some of it plays to the specific investigator, but a lot of it is more just almost like a preview of what's to come. You know, like eventually you'll be able to build a deck that focuses on this, you know, and you know, that sort of thing. So it feels kind of, you know, similar to Mystic in that regard, to me at least.
Yeah. There are a few cards in here that continue to be absolute staples.
Oh yeah.
Lucky.
Mm-hmm.
Look what I found still hits
Yes.
a lot of decks.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever played Survival Instinct.
Who do I play that in? Not Silas. I think I'm using it in a deck now, but I can't remember which one. But
I use it in the Devour Below
yes,
to scoot past all the cultists in the middle there, but
Cunning Distraction is great if you can find a way to drop the price on it somehow, or if you just find yourself swimming in resources. Stray Cats, solid.
Lucky level 2.
Leather Coat, solid. Yeah, Lucky level 2 is awesome. Will to Survive is pretty good.
Scavenging when you have the right deck for it.
Yeah,
right, like when you're building a scavenging deck,
yeah.
it's
The scavenging, that was one that like I think that was the first time that we're like, ooh, look at this. Like this is the start of an archetype. And then I think after Dunwich, like scavenging just kind of died.
It came back recently, especially with the segments of Onyx.
Oh, sure.
Because people were committing it for the wild and then succeeding and then bringing it back later on and then putting the pennant back together.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. And people were using it too. I know a lot like it in Min and, oh goodness, what's his name? Rex.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's just not a super cohesive collection of cards, but
No.
I think a lot of sins were covered up back in the day by the fact that Wendy was the core set survivor. Just her ability is so strong. And the 4 will and 4 agility gave her like some strong defense at least. So you kind of just needed to figure out the investigation piece. So
Yeah.
I did play a lot of Wendy back then and had more success with core set Wendy than core set Skids, I'll say. It's like, yeah, I think it's, and Survivor is just tricky because trying to figure out that class identity took a while, but she had enough tools. Like I did use Rabbit's Foot a lot then. Kind of fell off a lot, but then when Stella came out, now I'm back to using it a lot, of course. But yeah, Rabbit's Foot was good to keep her hand full for ability, and they're just those other cards that you guys mentioned already, like Lucky and Look What I Found, that are Leather Coat, that are just kind of to help her get by until you can push through.
Yeah.
The card that I forgot existed was a Survivor card.
Ooh, can I guess?
It is the ally with the most appropriate subtext ever.
That's what I was
Forgotten
thinking.
Daughter, yeah.
Aquina, the Forgotten Daughter.
Because
when I looked at the cards they added, it's like Aquina 3. I was like, oh yeah, there's an Aquina 1.
There's 3 versions of Aquina.
There's a level 0?
There's a level 1, isn't there a level 5? Or a 4 or something? No, you're right. It is just 1 and 3. So,
oh, thank God.
Yeah. But like
Okay.
oh man, I was gonna guess close call because I myself forgot that Aquina existed. So I was gonna guess that the card you forgot about was close call.
Because you hadn't
Because
remembered
I
Aquina.
also forgot that daughter.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Whew.
Like, and
All
then
right.
we look
Well-
at Aquina 3 being included in the, like, talk about
I mean, at least
pouring salt
Aquina
in the
3's
wound.
I mean, she's okay.
She's just,
Like she's better than 1. She's better than 1. She gives you a taste of Survivor jank, which I'm okay with. Like the Aquina level 1 is bike spokes. I'm okay with Aquina level 3. I think it's a neat introductory card. So anyways, Survivor gets Aquina level 3, and then this one blew my mind. You Catastrophe.
yeah, no,
What?
yeah, right?
I mean, I get it that
Here you go,
I mean,
cheater.
I'm thinking of this in a modern day view
Yeah.
with Yorick and all that jank. It's just that is a funny card to add. I mean,
For assuming it's someone's first experience with Arkham Horror, and
Yeah.
now we're giving them U Catastrophe. Like, wow.
yeah, and giving Agnes U Catastrophe as well.
Yeah,
Right, like-
yeah. Oh man.
I mean, I guess okay. You know what? Looking at it as core set, individual thing, maybe it's not that bad. Maybe I have to kind of do it, Ian, right, and look back objectively and think, okay, only core set is U Catastrophe broken. You know what? No, it's
No.
not. It's a good card.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pay to pass a test
Yeah.
that you would have failed. Pass it
Yeah,
surprisingly
very
well,
well. Yeah.
but yeah.
It's just a weird
So I
pick,
don't-
I guess. Like, it's not like a staple asset or something, you know. But it's a good event. I was surprised to see
Yeah.
it in there. I was also surprised to see Aquina 3 in there. But
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't think these two cards like squared up anything, any weaknesses or anything, but and Survivor kind of it didn't have weaknesses, it didn't have strengths,
Well,
it just kind of existed.
these cards didn't really help to focus Survivor from the core set either, which I guess. Like,
Yeah. And Superfang is saying from the chat too that Eucatastrophe seems appropriate thematically with Wendy at least.
sure.
Because of her amulet and also the like discarded cards
Yeah,
to
she's playing with the token
to
bag
change
anyway, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, I can see
I'm
that.
fine with that.
Fair enough. All right, the neutral class, if we can call it that. You got your knives, your flashlights, your emergency caches,
And the
And all
sweetest
your-
skills.
the sweetest skills, unexpected courage, and a couple other cards that I constantly forget about: bulletproof vest and elder sign amulet.
That's right.
Those are cards that exist.
Yep. I
Yep.
bought Elder Sign Amulet a lot back in the Dunwich days, playing as Roland.
Of Roland?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, I definitely partook as well with Skids because that low will and low sanity.
Yeah, and he wasn't using the accessory slot back then, so
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I mean, as far as cards we use today, I use Knife and Yorick.
sure.
And then, I mean, the skills are ubiquitous in this game, right? Like,
Yeah.
there's constantly that talk about which ones do I use, and like, oh, like, do you start with them in? Do you, like, yeah, they are a very special set of cards that will never not be in discussions, I think, for the life of this
We
game.
talked about it a few episodes ago, but I definitely, like, in the core set, I included the skills, like, almost all of them all the time because I had to, and also because back then I thought they were really good. And then, like, around Carcosa, Forgotten Age, I stopped including them because I was like, oh, there's better class-specific skills out now. There's no reason for me to use these neutral skills. And now I'm back to, like, oh, I have, like, 2 open card slots or whatever. I'm going to throw in, a guts and an overpower. Like, I used to always throw in to cover my weaknesses way back when, but now I'm like, oh, I'm playing Guardian, give me 2 overpowers. Like,
yeah.
So it's funny.
I want to assure my successes and draw cards.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how just me the way that I include these skills and which ones I choose has changed over the years.
Mm-hmm. I still use flashlight from time to time. Emergency cache has kind of like pretty much like almost every class has their own version of emergency cache now that I think is just slightly better.
Well, I mean, kind of, but at the same time,
but different.
There's something to be said for the reliability of cache to just be like action 3 resources.
Yeah.
I will say that I never use flashlight anymore. Like, I don't think I include that anywhere. Because I think that every class has good tools to get clues now at level 0.
I still use it sometimes, depending on investigator. Not as much for sure, but when I'm trying to do like sleight of hand flashlight and just dump it out over and over. But yeah.
I think also, like when I'm thinking of when I think of Clue Finder, I think of Seeker, obviously, and when I think of the things I put in my Seeker's hands. Nowadays, it's like once Hawkeye Folding Camera came out, it was Magnifying Glass and Hawkeye, and maybe Fingerprint Kit. And those have pushed Flashlight out for the most part. If someone needs to get clues and they're not Seeker and don't have access to that suite, or they just don't have access to it, Flashlight usually is involved in that deck.
Sure.
I find. So the cards added, it's the only quote-unquote class to get 3 cards. So they added Charisma, Relic Hunter, and Emergency Cache level 2.
Sure, okay. Yeah, all of them are, I think they're pretty good neutral adds. I don't know any that I would rather see in a core set than those 3.
Yeah, from neutral wise.
Backpack.
Oh man,
that in there.
Might be a little complicated for the newbies.
Yeah, I think those are all great includes. I know when Charisma, especially when that came out in Dunwich, we talked about how much of a game changer that was. So we might as well just include it from the very beginning because it's such a kind of core upgraded card to the experience.
And who doesn't want more copies of Charisma? Like,
right.
I've made so many fake copies of Charisma, like on a post-it note, like this is Charisma times 2. On like when I'm going to a convention, I have like 6 decks and only 2 copies of Charisma, but almost like well over half my decks have Charisma in them. It's like, yeah. And Emergency Cache level 2, yeah, sure. Like just showing people, especially with the lucky thing, like the value of XP, maybe like teaching new people that like when you go from 0 to 2 XP, that can draw you a card. That's the value of 2 XP. So awesome. Well, I mean, this product looks amazing for people getting into the game, especially with the 2 copies of everything. Like that makes building a deck an actual choice.
Yeah.
Which is nice.
And it's generally cheaper than it would have been to buy 2 of the old cores. Because it's like $62 and oh no, they were $29, weren't they? I keep thinking they were $39. Wait, what?
Yeah.
Were they $29?
But it also comes with a chaos bag.
Oh, so that I didn't know.
You don't have to use an old sock. So that's good.
Yeah, that was a bit of a surprise because I don't think I remember them advertising that anyway. But
no, that was And then what else? Oh yeah, tons of new art.
Yeah.
So new art for all the investigators. New art for quite a few cards, especially baseball bat. Thank God.
Oh really? Did it get new art?
Yeah, it got new art.
Nice.
Unexpected Courage got new art. Not that I think it needed it. Like Ian, we were talking about this before the show. It's okay art. Like it's totally fine.
The Hobbit,
but
and
it doesn't.
Man, yeah, it was all right.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like he's displaying very much like Unexpected Courage. But then the new one is way more like, oh yeah, this person's showing lots of courage.
Oh, so it's not just the alt art you see that we got.
No.
Okay. Of the gal jumping over the ship railing.
Yeah. No, this is all... Yeah, there's tons. There's new guard dog.
Oh, really?
Same idea. Yeah, it's actually really nice art. They are... if you're on our Discord and you are okay with leaks and spoilers and stuff,
Totally.
you can go to our leaks and spoilers channel, and it's all pinned. So you can take a look at all the new art, and people are discussing this there. So
It sounds like they're mostly updating the art, other than the investigators. The art that was reused Arkham Files art. Not all of them, but at least some. Because like Guard Dog was an old Arkham Files art. I'm pretty sure. I want to say Baseball Bat was, but I guess I don't know. So
all the investigators, I assume, were...
no, well, the investigators I think were all done for Arkham Horror, the card game. I think.
Okay.
I don't.
Wendy got a full, like, her card, her signature card, her weakness.
Yeah, and she's still
God.
rocking that football helmet hair.
Well, I mean, it's redder now.
That's true. Yeah.
That's good.
Yep.
It's her signature look.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah, the new neutral skills look awesome. They redid those. Overpower Nick, I think you'll
They
like.
did? Oh.
Yeah, it's Mark just unloading with like a Chicago typewriter looking gun.
Oh, well then that's the only one they redid because where's okay, I see Overpower. Yep, there it is. Oh yeah, that looks cool.
Yeah.
And then where's Unexpected Courage? Oh yeah. Nice. The other three didn't get a facelift, but that's fine.
They didn't?
Perception's the same, Guts is the same, Manual Dex.
Oh right, Deduction got an upgrade.
Deduction did, yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, anyways, chit-chatting about art on an audio podcast seems like a great way to lose 85% of your listeners. So, let's move on to losing the other 15% with Tentacle Time. Nick, what have you been playing?
Let's see. Well, I've been playing Aliens Fireteam Elite, like I talked about the last time we were on this podcast, last time I was on here. Mm-hmm. I haven't been playing it as much lately as I was before, mainly because now I have pretty much everything leveled up all the way, and I'm just kind of waiting for new content to drop, but it's a fun game. I'm in a production. I'm in a show. Wait Until Dark is the new play that we're doing at Brainerd Community Theater. Like I mentioned earlier, that opens in a couple weeks. So a lot of my evenings have been taken up doing that. It used to be a movie, or it was made into a movie. So some of you may be familiar with the movie. It came out in the 60s, I think, starring Alan Arkin and Audrey Hepburn. It's a thriller. Very, very fun production. I suppose I'll talk about two things, quote unquote, in depth. It's probably not going to be a long technical time for me, but one of them is I watched the show Midnight Mass on Netflix. A gal who's in Wait Until Dark with me, she and I are both really into horror movies and horror shows, and so we're always trading stuff. And she's like, "Have you seen Midnight Mass?" I said, "No, it's on my radar, but I haven't watched it yet." And she said, "Watch it, it's really good." So I went home from rehearsals that night, and I watched Midnight Mass episodes 1 through 4 until 2 a.m., and then I went to bed. And I woke up and I got the kids off to school, and Laura went to work. And then I watched episodes 5, 6, and 7 to finish out the season, the one season of Midnight Mass that exists. It's really good, guys. It's really, really good. I don't even want to talk about it because I don't want to spoil anything. I wouldn't call it horror. I guess it is horror. Like, it does deal with some pretty... there's some pretty heavy stuff in it, especially towards the end. But it takes a common horror scenario and explores it from a much more human perspective than what I'm at least used to or have been exposed to recently. So it's really, really good. A lot of, overzealous... religious stuff going on, which normally is a big turnoff for me in horror, but I actually really enjoyed it in this. So Midnight Mass, check it out on Netflix if you haven't. If you like scary, tense thriller stuff, definitely give it a watch. It gets a big ol' recommend from me. The other thing that I've been spending time on is I've talked about this before, probably a year or so ago at this point, but the Astral Tides role-playing game is I've been working on that on and off for the last 2.5, 3 years, and it's getting really close to the point where I will probably have something to show for it, hopefully before the end of the year. So I've been spending a lot of time kind of dinking around with that and tightening up some loose ends and actually commissioning art for it too. So that's really exciting to get that there. So those of you who are into role-playing games or anything like that, like look forward to updates about that from me going forward. Hopefully I'll get a quick start guide out pretty quickly here in the next, hopefully in a month or two. Yeah, but that's me.
Nick, you know what else is coming out in shortly on Netflix?
What?
Ozark, final season.
Jesus Christ, I still haven't watched season 3.
What?
I still haven't, man. I don't know.
That season just gave me anxiety.
Yeah, that's kind of why I haven't watched it yet.
Chest crushing anxiety.
Like, I don't know.
But in a good way?
Yeah.
I think.
Because it's other people's things. It's other people that you're watching.
Yeah. Anyways, Ian, what's been giving you chest crushing anxiety lately? Or distracting you from it?
Well, to answer your first question, just life in 2021.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You mean 2020 part 2 is what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, just general life. Let's see. I don't have a ton new to report. I think most of my distractions are the same old. I've been watching and keeping up with Star Trek Lower Decks, which is like one of the many new Star Trek series that the new heads or powers that be in Star Trek land have greenlit. So Star Trek Lower Decks, who those don't know, is like a animated series, but it's like a comedy series, so a comedy take on Star Trek. But it's made by someone, I'm trying to remember the exact story, but it's someone who used to run a Twitter account that I think it was like season 8 of TNG, which doesn't exist. It ended at season 7, but just like funny tweets about what would have come next, you know? But eventually he ends up running a whole series, animated series. So overall, I think it took me a while to get used to it because you don't necessarily associate like comedy and animation and Star Trek together. But I do like it, and a lot of people who don't enjoy the other new Star Trek series, Discovery and Picard, I've heard actually like this one because it's, even though it's a comedy show, it kind of has the same structure as OG Trek, you know, like more episodic, like, okay, there's a story for this episode and then it's wrapped up by the end and then you move on to the next story next time. So it kind of has more of the classic Trek feel and, of course, like a ton of references and callbacks to stuff that happened in old school TNG and Deep Space Nine and Voyager and all that. So it's clearly made by people who love Trek and know it really well. So yeah, I think that's mostly the main thing I've been keeping up with lately. I think I don't know if I mentioned it, but the other one is a show that's very popular these days, Ted Lasso, which was originally recommended to me by someone on our Discord, I think, who was like, oh, I know you're a huge soccer fan, you should watch this show, because basically the basic premise of that is an American football coach gets hired to coach a soccer team in England. So obviously knowing nothing at all about soccer, he gets this job. And so, yeah, it basically follows on from that about his experience there. So it's mostly a comedy show again, but also has a lot of like serious stuff and gets kind of real sometimes. But yeah, I enjoy it a lot. It's in season 2 now. So I think TV is the main thing now, because when you're really busy, sometimes you just need to veg out.
Yeah.
Awesome. I have been obviously not playing much. I have occasional evenings or, I don't know, a weird afternoon where I have some free time. I bought XCOM 2, and I've been playing through that. Nick, I still don't think I've played since that night I talked to you. So... just trying to find time obviously is difficult. I've been playing more chess on my phone because my phone is accessible. I sometimes have some free time at work, and so I embarrassingly downloaded the Magic the Gathering Arena app. And I've been playing Magic, so if anyone wants to friend me, just let me know. I was supposed to, Carlos on our server, he was saying, like, Scott, you have to, like, you have to be my sponsor. You can't let me download Magic. I was like, okay, man, stay strong. Like, two days later, he's like, I downloaded Magic. I'm like, what?
I thought you'd be like, I did too.
Yeah. No, I was like 5 days after that.
Oh, okay. 2 days later.
Yeah. So, anyways, it's fun. You can play for free, and it's there is obviously some pay to win because it's Magic, but you can have fun without paying a single dollar. So there's that.
Also, guys, don't pay any attention to Sean. We can say this now because he's not here. Don't listen to Sean. Like, Magic wouldn't have stuck around as long as it did if it weren't fun to play in some way. Like, it is a fun game. And now, don't listen to Sean. This brand new game, Magic the Gathering, it's pretty good, guys.
Yeah. This up-and-comer
right.
Magic game, which, we still use tons of like phrases that were invented in that game for all these other card games. Like, it's a fun game if you don't take it seriously. I think once people take it super seriously and get into the competitive scene, I think that's kind of where you see the toxicity of the people, and also like like when you get mana screwed and you're just angry at the game because now you lost and now you're like 2-1 in the tournament. Like, but if you're just playing with your buddy, you could be like, dude, I'm getting mana screwed. Let's start this game over. Okay, right? Like it just So, Chaos Fan just put a picture of a t-shirt, a Magic t-shirt. Drugs would be cheaper. Yeah. If you don't want your kids to do drugs, get them addicted to Magic cards. They won't have money for drugs. So chess, Magic, XCOM 2. I feel like there's something else I was playing. Oh, I kind of brushed off Kerbal Space Program. That one's always fun. And now my son really likes watching me play. So, because spaceships. Yeah. But he always wants me to crash them.
Oh, sure.
So I've been slowly teaching him, like, no, we have to, like, make this, get them to space, keep them safe, let's go to the moon. And so now he's kind of like, now that we're going to other planets, now he's, like, super hyped and, like, doesn't want to crash. So, yeah. But, yeah. Oh, and some Slay the Spire. Yeah, that one, that's constantly on rotation on my phone. So, yeah. Slay the Spire is pretty good. I've gotten quite high in Ascension levels, which is like, once you beat the game, it unlocks another difficulty, and there's 20 difficulties.
Oh, God.
And, and it gets quite difficult. It's a very difficult game. It is fantastic, though. One of the best games I've ever played. So, anyways, we are now just crossing the 2-hour mark in our recording.
We did it!
But... there's like 10 minutes of talking beforehand. So we have actually done under the 2-hour episode.
Yay.
I don't hear. Okay.
Ian, when you and I were on, were we under 2 hours for our episode? I forget.
I don't remember.
We talked about, what did we, off class, building for off class.
Yeah. I don't know if we pulled it off or not.
I think it got close.
Anyways, hopefully Sean doesn't edit this and then throw in like 9 minutes of him just talking about whatever, telling us how Magic sucks.
Yeah.
Thank you all for joining us for Mythos Busters. Yes, Big Kahuna, I agree. Sorry, I had to point this out. Longer episodes are better than shorter episodes. When I've listened to podcasts and they're like 20 minutes long or even 40 minutes long, I'm like, but I want more. Anyways, thank you for listening. Episode 115 of Mythos Busters. We'll catch you guys next time. But one of the tests is a tasting test, and there's 6 wines, I believe, 3 reds, 3 whites,
and one glass of curdled milk.
yeah, just throw them off.
You have to guess which wine has the arsenic in it. So the test is you have to like drink and smell the wine, and then say the country, the region, the variety of grape, and the year it was produced.
Oh, they don't have to talk about the person who actually produced it?
No.
God, this one was either Francois or Pierre.
Alfonso? I'm getting an Alfonso note.
Can taste his feet anywhere.
But yeah,